Did you listen back to the last episode at all, Luke, or not yet?
No, how bad was my audio?
Oh, it's funny.
Oh
it's
no,
it's
I'm scared.
actually the funniest part is unironically, I think the audio quality would have been better if we just used your broken microphone.
So
That's
sad.
truly
Cause
sad.
I was messing with it. I'm like, I could have boosted you like up. Like I could have boosted you so up and the quality was still like
Mm.
okay. But I
Right.
think the entire scuff is like just funnier.
Mhm.
It's really funny. It was a nightmare
Oh
to edit that
no.
episode.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's not your fault. It's funny. No, I think it came out well. I think there were a lot of funny anecdotes. It was a good time.
Yeah, always a
Yeah.
good time.
But yeah, we have something special planned today though, right?
Oh yes, we do.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this.
I know you guys have been so excited. I feel like this episode is definitely for you guys. You know,
Really?
it's I feel like you guys are so much more musically like talented, inclined, aware than I
What
am.
else, Eva? Keep going.
Uh, uh,
Keep going, keep going.
you know, you guys just have such smooth voices. You guys both play instruments. You're just so devilishly charming. Like
Mm.
I don't know if this one's for me, man.
Yeah, so we gave each other some homework. We all recommended about an hour's worth of music in album form
Mhm.
for the others in the group to listen to. Eric, what were your recommendations?
So my recommendations were Jung's album "Always the End," which is kind of their first
No need to go into
ish
details.
album, but
We're
the
gonna
other
do
one
the
was
summary
also
overview of the
no, I'm
outline.
gonna do it all right
Okay,
now.
okay.
Okay.
And the other one was King Cruel's 6 Feet Beneath the Moon.
Isn't that the guy from Donkey Kong? Tabitha,
Don't be
our
dramatic.
album.
Dude, honestly, that was my first thought when I saw the album name. I'm like, I think I know this from somewhere. Okay, so I picked two albums. One of them is called To Kill a Living Book for Library of Ruina, and it's by this artist Millie, which came up last week as one of my top listened to artists. And the other album I picked, it's kind of like a classic band, so to speak. It is Panic at the Disco, and it is their album Vices and Virtues. So quite the selection there.
I recommended three because mine were relatively short. First one was I kind of went in order of weirdness,
Yeah.
least to most.
Mm.
First one was Bobbing's Year of the Newt. Second one was Luca by Gabby Start, and the third one was MK Ultra HD by Droop
I love
with
Luca.
zeros instead of O's.
My favorite Pixar movie, said no one ever.
All right. Since I have three and you all have two, would you like me to
Yeah,
start
you
off?
can start us off. I will say before we like get fully into the conversation, just to preface, like we picked these albums to like discuss on pod, and like because maybe they're musically interesting. We didn't necessarily just pick like our top greatest hits, our bangers, you know. So I think it's fair to say there's a wide range of music in here. If people are interested, they definitely should like listen to these ahead of like before getting into the conversation, just if they want more context. Otherwise, I think we'll try and talk about them in a way that hopefully most people can appreciate. But those are the albums, that's the context, and I think it's a really cool range. But because there's such a range, I also think that means we'll have a lot of varied opinions, which is
And
good.
we have a playlist that we can be linking.
Yes, we'll link the playlist below. If anyone's curious, if they hear something we saying like, "Oh, that sounds so cool. I want to listen to that."
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, so cool. What's so cool with you, Luke? What's your so cool?
Should we go least to most freak in our discussion of my stuff, or most to least freak? Because there's an
feel
elephant
like-
in the room here.
ooh.
I
feel like most or least esoteric to most esoteric would be
Alright,
a good
okay.
way to go.
sure.
We'll start off with Bobbing,
Mm-hmm.
Year of the Newt. This is it's mainly the work of a guy named Bob.
Is that why it's called
Bing?
bobbing?
Yeah, Bob is
Whoa.
bobbing.
Bobbing.
I think his main background is in guitar. He does a lot of interesting stuff with pedals. If you're an electric guitar player, you might know the type of, getting wacky effects, looping. doing all sorts of interesting noises with your guitar. Yeah, I recommended Year of the Newt. It was an album that came out in 2023. It's a little less than a half hour long. Part of why I like this album a lot is because it's a fun front to back listen. You're going to hear me saying this frequently.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
songs transition nicely into each other.
I noticed that as a theme for both of your like album picks. Like a lot of them have this element of like if you listen to it like top to bottom, it like is a straight like sequence. Like there's no stop or gap between a lot of the songs. It kind of just flows together.
Yeah. So I'm curious what you all's thoughts are on this. It's kind of a guitar forward album. There's a certain tonal quality to the electric guitar that bobbing brings out. Lots of interesting riffs and loops, and some keyboard. And sometimes you can't tell if it's keyboard or guitar, which I think is kind of cool.
Which I also kind of ran into, actually, funny enough. That was actually one of the points where I had some notes, and one of them was straight up like guitar keyboard question mark, and it was kind of cool.
You guys have such a funny. You guys are clearly the music oriented people on this pod because I listen to this. And I'm like, what's the vibe? I don't think I recognized a single instrument consciously. I was just like, what vibe am I getting for this one? And here's the sentence I wrote. I said, I feel like half the time I'm in a trippy video game, and the other half I'm just tripping. Like, what if Undertale and an indie band had a baby? Those were my notes, and I don't know if that's like the intent. And I like how this is like Luke's like, yeah, this was like the least out there. I'm like, interesting.
Yeah.
So, like for me, listening to a lot of it, it very much is very prog rock. Which prog rock is? It's I don't know if you're familiar with this, Teva. What prog rock is in general.
I feel like people are now like it's like how chains in the Pacific Northwest are like blank and blank, like Salt and Straw, Moss, Crow and Moss, like all these brands. I feel like now every genre is like this classic genre. It's like, yeah, it's like heavy metal, screamo metal, like cut your face off metal. Now we got prog rock, gentle rock, little rock, like
Arkansas.
Yeah. So no, what I assume it stands for progressive, and I don't know what that means when it comes to a like rock.
Yeah, so like prog rock is kind of like a very broad genre. So this is kind of the blanket term, right? Like under prog rock, there's a lot of different other genres of rock as well too. Like math rock, I would say, is like a very maybe not very well known, but it's like the one that I listen to a lot. But in a lot of cases, it uses kind of very like experimental vibes, sometimes very interesting, like time signatures and just like sometimes kind of funky as well too. It mixes a lot of different genres, like sometimes jazzy as well too. With a lot of the inspirations that it comes from.
I feel like with the caveat that I think bands that come to mind when people think prog rock, you might think of like Coheed and Cambria. Bobbing is a lot softer. There's not the kind of like heavy metal aspects that are present in some forms of prog.
But and in
forms of
case,
prog, put that on like a t-shirt. That sounds kind of cool.
Oh, you could be like prog, like the actual
like form of the prog. It's a magic card.
Yeah, form of the prog. Oh no, that would be funny custom.
It was one where I personally really enjoy bobbing. It's funny enough because I actually got set. So hadn't listened to the full album prior to this listen. The one song Luke had actually sent me quite a few months back was the last one in the album, which is probably the most.
Oh, that's a funny one.
That's a song called Dog. And no particular reason why Luke would ever send that song to me.
It's so funny, man.
But it's one of those where if you listen to it standalone, it's very like, this is a cute, funny song, and then you would never ever realize the rest of the album was like very musically just a good album. Yeah, it was just really funny to actually realize there's a whole album behind that one song.
Yeah. Dog is the absolute last song on the album, and it makes the least sense in context.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly funny for the reason that it's just this complete tonal shift from some, like, I would say, like, as you go through the album as well, too, there's this very... It gets mellower and mellower, right?
It's kind of funny. I mean, it does. I think a good song on the album that I liked was, like, Elevator Music, and I feel like that, like, gives a sense of like some of the vibe on the album. Like it's kind of chill, right? Like it's like very easy to listen to in the background. Would you disagree or?
No, I would say so.
Yeah.
And like to preface, I feel like a lot of the music, or like majority of the music that we had, like tends to be like very like chill background music for a lot of the things, right? Like you could kind of put it on, you don't really pay attention, and it's kind of there. And yeah, I agree. Like especially with bobbing, a lot of the songs are things where I could probably play in like at work, and no one really like bat an eye, or they jam out to it. You know, very very chill vibes. But as it goes on, it starts getting into this space of like relatively like more and more mellowed out. There's a certain vibe it kind of wants to have, and then it hits dog, and it's just you. The first thing you hear is literally dogs panting, and that's
Yeah.
if that's anything to give you some idea without even hearing it, what the song kind of feels like. It's really funny.
But,
Yeah,
That's definitely one I recommend.
they tie dog into the track before
Mm-hmm.
with the panting noise, but at the end of the track before, which is cool with it, it sounds more like a shaker.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets to dog and it's just a dog.
It's just
And
dog.
the first like musical notes are a synth playing dogs barking.
It's actually incredible.
It's pretty funny. Yeah. Other standout songs to you all?
For me, it's funny because I was driving one day. I personally really like A Night Alone, right? For me, it was funny too because I had written in my notes. I was literally driving one night because I commute like an hour every time going back, so I had a lot of time to listen to these tracks, right? And I saw the track before Night Alone was Benthic Zone Parking Lot, right? And I was like, oh, that's a really cool name. And then I started listening to it, and then it went into Night Alone, but I didn't realize it again because you have this very front to back listening experience where it kind of seamlessly transitions to the next song.
Mhm.
So I see the name Benthic Zone Parking Lot, and then it goes into Night Alone, which I had in my notes. It kind of reminded me a lot of the aquatic levels in video games, like old retro video games.
Yes, right. Like I got
Right.
such a video game vibe from some of the tracks.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I was like, oh, that's really cute. They even called it Benthic Zone Parking Lot. It's like Benthic Zone, if you don't know, is actually a just put simply, it's a certain part of the water within the coast, essentially. So I was like, oh,
Did you
that's
know
really
that?
funny. Haha, Benthic Zone. It kind of sounds like a video game, water world, right? And then I
Yeah.
realized that wasn't even the name of the song.
It's funny because the only reason I recognize the word benthic is because of Magic the Gathering. Like half my vocab is like Magic the Gathering. I'm like, oh, benthic
Same,
dweller. I'm
honestly.
like that sounds cool. Like, what's that mean? Seems aquatic. Yeah.
I'm in the exact same space as that
Yeah.
as well.
Eva, what's your favorite from the album?
So it's kind of fun. I have a few notes. So I think my favorite, I had a similar experience to Eric where I was listening to elevator music and without even realizing it bled into Ragtime Gal. I actually think elevator music is my favorite though, and it's just because of the like acapella elements of the song. You kind of get like the classic like bup bup, like people like kind of like like
Yeah.
chiming in with different voices, and it this is where it like really reminded me of Undertale. Like it gave me like such Undertale energy that I really like. I mean, I
Man who
love
has only listened to the Undertale soundtrack.
exactly, dude. Make up a guy. He's right here. No, but it really had a lot of those vibes, and I do love the Undertale soundtrack. So I was like, oh, I kind of dig this one. That was definitely my favorite. I appreciated a lot of the songs. Stereolog has one of my favorite like lines, like lyrics, which includes "fuck around and find out," which I always appreciate in a song. And this is different from this album, but an artist I didn't put on, but was probably one of my favorites is Vampire Weekend, and they have like a decently big profile song that also includes the lyrics "fuck around and find out," which I think whenever people can put that into a song, it's I don't know, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Any least favorite songs?
Honestly, it was kind of hard. Like, I there's this space where I was like, what is my least favorite? I was like, I don't think I could have really, off the top of my head, been like,
Dog.
yes, this was like my least favorite. Hey, fuck you.
You
You didn't
kidding?
like Dog, Deva?
I'm kidding.
How dare you.
It wasn't actually Dog. I think for me it was unironically Benthic Zone Parking Lot, which is funny because we were talking about it earlier.
I feel
Yeah,
like
I mean,
Benthic's Zone Parking Lot doesn't really like count.
yeah, it's like a transition. Like there's
Okay.
songs in certain albums which are kind of transition songs, right?
Yeah, and that's probably why I didn't like it as much. But also,
Yeah.
it's funny that you bring up like the water world, and I'm like, I hate water worlds in video games. It's all making sense.
No, yeah, I actually couldn't really think of one. Like I really liked like a majority of the songs on there. Like to like I would put this on my playlist kind of a thing, right?
Did Did you
Like
have a favorite?
Stair Log is probably the one that was the most like math rock esque as well too, which I really really enjoyed.
Hmm.
And then Ragtime Gal also fantastic. Which fun thing about Ragtime Gal as well too is I really like the way that the instruments match the vocals.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really do like some songs I don't like it when they do that, but the way they do it and because of the cadence and the way that the vocals kind of ebb and flow with the actual the vocals and instruments, it was really fun to listen to. Definitely also a big recommend for that one. Check it out.
Yeah, I what I like about this album is the instruments feel like they're in conversation with each other and with the
Mhm.
vocals. Like
Ooh,
one
yeah.
will stop and someone else will pick up. And Ragtime Gal has that a lot with the vocal and like the guitar.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
a really good
really fun
point.
to listen to.
Yeah. And I just like the lyrics on Ragtime Gal the most of all the tracks, I think.
Hmm,
I
that
think so
makes
too.
sense.
Bobbing just sounds so pissed off. It's great.
I big fan of the entire album. Yeah, can't really pick out like a least favorite. Like I said, Benthic Zone Parking Lot, sure, kind of given, not really much going on there. Being it's like a less like 30-second track or so, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's only
35.
36 seconds. Those 36 seconds made an impression on me, dude. I was so for context, I listened to like basically the whole album when I was flying back from the Bay back to Portland. So I had like a few hours where I listened to like the 2 hours of songs you guys gave me. And I was on the plane and I was like, huh, what is this? Looked at my phone, didn't even look at the time, and saw Benthic Zone Parking Lot, made a note, don't really like this one. So in that 30 seconds, I was like,
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I think my least favorite's probably Cool With It.
That's fair, yeah.
It just seems tonally different from the rest.
Mm.
Let's Get Evil was like a sleeper pick from me when I first listened to it. It
I
was
liked
probably my favorite.
I like Let's Get Evil. That was a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, that's Year of the Newt. If you liked that, you should also check out Thank You for Singing With Me. It's only 15 minutes long. And it's got some interesting guitar riffs. No vocals though. But yeah.
Nice. No, good pick. Good pick.
Thank you.
Alright.
Can't wait to hear your thoughts on the other ones I
Oh
picked.
yeah. Oh,
Anyway, who's going next?
do you wanna go, Eric?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Are we going least or like going from least esoteric from person to person, or are we going? How do we want to do this?
You can
Actually?
just pick which one you want.
You
You can
can
throw
pick-
something freaky in there
Yeah,
if you
you
want.
can pick your order.
Okay. Freaky beaky. No. So I would say we'll go a little short.
Yeah.
I guess no. Since we're actually kind of going off like front to back, I would say Always the End by Jung.
Yeah.
I really really like this album because I think on first listen around, it's one of those where again all the songs transition from one to another very very seamlessly. But I think even more than that, it like kind of tells a story to some extent, right? And I think that's what I really really enjoy about it, where you have this start that's very I don't want to say like ballad esque. I really wouldn't say that. But it goes into like these monologue almost. Like you're dead, and then there's maybe you're in
So for
purgatory, right?
for some context, like this album is like what, like 5, 6, 7 minutes
Super
like long.
short.
It's
Yeah,
super
7 minutes
short.
44.
And like you said, like part of the album itself, it's like a story and like one and all package experience kind of. Like I don't have the like terminology really to like encapsulate it, but it is kind of like there's a story, there's a narrative, there's like spoken words, and then there's like songs that like
Mm-hmm.
mesh with it. I thought it was a really cool experience.
And that's why I chose this album, because it was, for me, the first time I listened, I was like, wow, I really like this one song, and then I listened to the album, I was like, wait, this is a really interesting album. Like, I think it's a whole listening experience as opposed to just like, oh, here's like a collection of songs, right?
Yeah.
And I think one musically, it goes between like a bunch of different genres and a lot of different music that I like, and also like the first song, I enjoy quite a bit because I think it's just really funny. So the first song of the album is "Jung is Dead," which kind of on the nose, where you're literally dead, and you're in purgatory, right? And the you're kind of having this dialogue between the main singer Jung and I guess maybe an angel or something like that, saying like, hey, like you're gonna be dead, haha, sorry, and then he interjects with like, wait, don't I get any last words? And then he goes like, some last words like, well, I guess fuck you. That's one of them.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the next one where it breaks into the actual song, right? And I think stuff like that one really entertaining. Actually, genuinely made me laugh the first time I listened to it. But also again, that transition into it where you get these very like rising synths and boards. I really like the album. For a lot of different reasons, and also the harmonics within the actual vocals, with the actual instruments, all really enjoyable to listen to. And I think it's one where when you were listening to it, what were you listening to it on? Were you listening to it on speakers or headphones?
Headphones.
Headphones for both of you. Okay, because there's also a few songs in it where it actually makes a lot of use of kind of I forget the exact term for it.
Directional like sound almost like
yeah, kind of directional sound where it kind of goes from left to right essentially like over and over, and actually creates its own soundscape as well too as you're listening to it, and that was really fun. I really enjoy when certain songs do that. And like a few of the songs in this one, I would say notably the end of See Me, which is the fourth song on the album, does that quite a bit, and it transitions into Tell Me It's Over. And the fun thing about this entire album, which I think, as I kind of mentioned, it has a somewhat of a storyline, is it reprises a lot of the same lyrics in the previous songs, into a different setting.
Which is funny for something that's like 7 minutes of runtime, only 5 tracks, that it is like self-referential in that way, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of cool.
It's just a very clean, concise album. That's just a fun experience overall, and that's why I chose this one in particular.
Yeah, I
But
think
for
it was,
you guys, yeah,
it was a
was
really
there?
cool pick. I think like of all the albums we chose, I feel like this is the one I would most recommend to someone to like listen to as an experience, because it's really short. It's like 7 minutes. It is kind of like a little bit of a story and narrative, and I'm bad with like music genres, but I personally liked the music. Again, it seemed very like chill, very like, I don't know, not ballad is the wrong word, but like very lyrical. Like, I don't know. I would also recommend it. I feel like there were really like 3 main musical tracks though. Like, it's not like there's a lot of like musical tracks. It's like 5 minutes of music, cuz again, with the spoken words and everything, it's like, again, it's more of an experience than it is just like, oh, let me put a random like playlist on Spotify and do work, right?
Right. And I think for me, it makes me kind of sad. I'm still waiting for more tracks from this guy. Honestly, I'm actually very excited to see what else, because they're relatively new onto the scene. I like. I think
Yeah.
around the pandemic, if not post-pandemic, a little.
This is something I wanted to make mentions of, like the years these things came out, because I was trying to like look at the times everything came out, and I feel like this one was like, yeah, and like you picked some like this was like, yeah, 2022, 2023 or something, right?
This one was 2022.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's pretty recent, and it's, post pandemic.
And it's funny too, because from the time that I first listened to the album till now, it's actually gotten like a decent amount of plays on Spotify actually. Because I think the first time I listened to it, it probably only had maybe 1 million max, if even,
That seems like a
for
lot to me.
Always the End, I think, which is the most popular one.
Yeah. That was my
And then
favorite.
yeah, I think since then, yeah, and that's the one that's like, musically very easy to listen to. And that's also a very short track. That's like a minute long track as well too.
I
It's
was
one of those where
yeah.
you kind of wish it was longer as well too.
Sure, yeah, because it's so like short and sweet. This is one of the things I was joking about with my friends before we came on here today, which was, dude, I'm like by far the most basic ass person here, because you know what, I just, every time I look at the album and there's like, it has a title and then it has a song with that title, I'm like, dude, that's my song. It's named after this song, dude. The whole album is named after this song, and the album is called Always the End, so can't help myself. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
I thought this one was pretty good. I honestly, I didn't like the premise.
How come?
It was a little too spelled out for me.
Just
I
a little
think
on the nose.
yeah, it was too on the nose. I didn't like how on the nose it was. If it wasn't as on the nose, I might like the premise more. Always the End was, I think, my favorite. I didn't like the sampling. I don't like. this is a problem I have with stuff I listen to in general. When you're sampling people talking, it can be like a hit or like a big turnoff for me. Usually it's a big turnoff. Sorry, this is a big sidebar, but if you've listened to MF Doom at all, there's lots of sampling of like cartoons and it's just character dialogue, and I don't like that part. And so I had the same experience with Don't Hurry. Like the sampling from old movies kind of pulled me out.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah. In general, pretty good. I'd play this music.
I will say though, Don't Hurry is actually my least favorite track on it. Because I think I like it. I think standalone, but I don't like that it does kind of pull. I actually agree with that because I think it kind of pulls you out of the overall vibe of like that's kind of set with the first two songs and then the last two. It feels like it's kind of this like bump in the road to an extent. Is kind of how I feel it. I think because Always the End is a really, really good track, I think. And then it leads into Don't Hurry, which has like a very tonal, like a bit of a tonal shift to it, which I don't like as much. That being said, like I said, I still think Standalone, I think is actually a song that I enjoy quite a bit. But yeah, sorry, I just had to interject on that one.
No.
I also feel kind of the same way on that.
I can't wait till we talk about Droop and sampling other media.
Yes.
But I will say it's kind of funny, and again, this to me goes back to me being like, damn, I'm kind of basic. Like low key, the sampling old movie people talking done in like the right genre. I kind of fuck with it. I like that. It's like, to me, it's kind of like almost like a cliche at this point. Like it's been done a lot. Like I feel like I've seen it done a decent number of times. Like I think the first one I really experienced it is DJ Okawari. I might mess up that name.
You got it.
Like that's one where I was first exposed to it, and like I kind of like it in certain aspects, but I generally agree with the sentiment. Like I don't like the mix of like song and spoken word in the music I'm just like kind of listening to. I think like I don't know if there's a track from this list that I would like put into like a random playlist. Like I don't know if I would put songs from this into random playlists and like listen to them because of that. But I did like listening to the album as a whole.
Yeah, and that's I'm kind of in that same boat. That means that I do have it on like at least
a few of the songs, like just they're nice, they're pleasant.
But yeah, I agree. Like it is one of those where it's a neat bundle. That's exactly why I chose it. It's a short listen, neat bundle, and has an overarching kind of theme, which I like.
Yeah, and it matches. It's really funny. So again, we all recommended an hour's worth of music. So if this one's 7 minutes, the other thing Eric recommended was like 55, 53 minutes.
I mean, I'm sure it was a little. I didn't actually do the math, right?
No, I didn't either. It was like approximate.
Yeah, like I'm gonna do about actually, yeah, just about. So it kind of equals out that way because I think the second album that I chose was probably the longest of the ones we had.
Yeah, it was. Well, the whole one, like the playlist is actually pretty. It's 3 hours and 5 minutes, like exactly. So we did pretty well on that.
Pretty neat. Pretty neat.
And yeah, so this is definitely like the largest album as your second one, but cool.
Yeah.
All right, is it my turn? Oh,
I go.
Where are we going with this one?
Where are we going? This is so interesting. I feel like it's so hard to pick the order, but I think if we're going like, we'll start with the more approachable one, and then I guess if we're finishing with Out There, I'll finish with Out There.
Or do you want to balance my Out There with your more approachable?
Ooh.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go with the album that like I knew I would recommend to you guys first, and then I'll go with the other one second. So I'm taking us to Kill a Living Book for Library of Ruina by Millie. So Millie was one of my top artists from Spotify, and I actually discovered her through this album, through the video game it was made for. So this is like the music episode, but I kind of chose this so I could talk about a video game. Because this is
scammed.
You got scammed, kids. That's right.
Ori and the Blind Forest.
So Ori and the Blind Forest, my favorite video game of all time. No, so this game, Library of Ruina, is made by a small indie studio in Korea, which should tell you about how fucked up the game is, because everything I've seen, like all media that comes out of Korea, is like crazy in some way. But it's really cool, and I've always had trouble like describing this game to people, like every time, because there's a lot going on in there. I think what I've come up with is that it is a dystopian game. It's set in a dystopian society that really explores the limits and extremes of human psyche and human experience, and how those can be distorted, and just kind of like the extremes that people and humans can experience.
Wow, that's great. That's what my last album's about too.
Oh wait, that's so
I'm
fun.
just kidding.
Oh
I'm
my
just kidding. I'm
God,
just kidding.
stop. Yeah, freaking Droop. Yeah, that's what Droop's about too. And so the way the game is set up, I don't know if we've talked about this on pod, but I am very much a menus gamer. Like, I like games where you have time to think, you click on buttons, and you do things. And Library of Ruina is essentially a turn-based strategy where you kind of, it's like set in a library, and you view stories of things that happen in this dystopian city. It's literally called the city where the game is set. And so you'll go through like various combats against enemies, and against certain enemies the combat music will be different, and they'll actually be the songs that are in this playlist. So this basically entire playlist is composed of music that plays during combat sequences, but they're not exactly like your standard cookie cutter like combat video game music. I think that kind of gives some context on why some of the songs might sound more out there, because they're like occurring during the context of the song is like, oh, you know, it's called from a place of love, but the love is like in the context of this like horrible distorted event where people get stuck on a train for like 10 billion years, and the only way to stay sane is they like stitch each other together and become these like mutant horrors, and they're like, oh, the oneness is the love, we're all from Love Town. And it's just very messed up, but very cool, I think, musically, to integrate that into a video game. I would say for me, the standout track of the album, if you're going to listen to one, is String Theocracy. And it's very much like the trailer music for the video game. So if you go to this game on Steam and look up the page, there will be like a 1 minute 30-second trailer that is essentially String Theocracy. And it's very like upbeat, like actually there's a lot going on. It kind of has like, I've been told, like jazz elements almost to it, and it really gets you like, it got me like very pumped up to like play the video game. Like I saw the game on Steam, looked at the trailer, I'm like, whoa, this seems like exciting and hype. Like, what's going on here?
It sounds like an OP for an anime about girls doing science.
It it kind of does.
That's my note.
No, it does.
That's pretty apt, honestly.
With
does
zero
have-
context, listening to this
Yes.
track, I'm like, this is definitely the opener.
It's the opener. It's also the first track in the album. Yeah, it does have opening to like an anime kind of energy, and it's because it's opening to the video game. If you play the video game and you like don't do anything, this will also play as like the title screen, like before, you know, you get to the main menu. Yeah, I guess I'm curious, like, if you guys had any thoughts, any tracks that stood out, that I could like give context to.
So for me,
Yeah.
Oh,
With
yeah,
the
yeah.
context of what type of game this is, it makes the songs make more sense.
Mhm.
Yes.
like obviously with like String Theocracy being very like swing jazz, right?
Yeah.
It also definitely reminds me of like Mario. I think it was Galaxy, like that really popular song that's very like swing jazzy.
Like Super Mario Odyssey, or
I think
not
Odyssey is
Galaxy.
what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
yeah, it's
but
kind of like this upbeat, like opener energy.
yeah, and like having listened to some Millie songs in the past,
Yeah.
it was one very clear when I first listened. It was like, oh yeah, this is a Millie song, right? Like
Yeah.
it's very clear, obviously, because the vocals of Millie
Yeah,
are
she is
very
very-
distinct.
Yes, I was gonna use that exact same word, distinct vocals. She kind of has like almost like, I don't know, I would say like very like high pitched, maybe like a little ephemeral, like ghost like vocals. Again, I'm bad at describing things musically, but like it's very distinct vocally.
She sounds like she's been killed and came back.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and that does make for a very clear idea of who it is. But yeah, I know for me, I think Iron Lotus is the one that really stood out for me.
Yes.
Big agree. That is my favorite.
I think it's a
I'm
fantastic
I'm
track.
so happy.
And
This is better than you telling me you don't like Ori and the Blind Forest.
well, for me, the standout thing is I'm such a sucker for the erhu, which is, if you guys are familiar, it is a Chinese instrument. That is basically a 2-string instrument. It is very melancholy like the instrument itself is a very like melancholy sounding instrument. Like every song you listen to that has the oru is typically very like kind of sad, low
Mhm.
key. And quick interjection on that. One of my favorite animes out there, Hoseki no Kuni, uses it in the actual soundtrack to denote like very sad scenes and things like that, and very emotional beats.
Yeah,
For that
for
exact
sure.
reason. But yeah, really fantastic track. Really, really great music overall. And I think for me, and I do this a lot with a lot of music. I can kind of have an idea of if I'm gonna like the song in the first few seconds of listening.
Yes, I think a lot of the tracks, like a lot of tracks I like too, they kind of hook me from like second one,
Mm-hmm.
like from the very first beat. Um, and I definitely think again, partially being like in a video game and having that like kind of classic video game composition, they kind of often do that. Where they like there's not a whole lot of like what's the word like preamble or anything. They just kind of like get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really funny that you guys like Iron Lotus because the whole reason I looked up this album on Spotify was after I did the fight where they play Iron Lotus. And I was like, dude, this is so sick. And it's actually such a banger to like I don't know if you guys have this experience because I feel like I play the most like single player strategy games of the three of us. But I think like having the right music for when you're like deliberating, like, oh, what should I do? Maybe I should do this. Like you're going through the options in your head, but you have like a banger soundtrack in the background, like kind of pushing you forward. I really enjoy that. I think Octopath Traveler is a game that does that really well as well. And so like for Iron Lotus especially, there's like a lot of emotional weight to that battle. And I like that to me when I like think of the song, like it almost has like lullaby elements in it. Like there's like elements that are very like serene and like peaceful while also being very like high energy and like emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So that is also my favorite track of the album. So we're 3 for 3 on that one.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Any tracks that kind of stood out as like wonky or out there where you're like, what's going on here, man?
Bro, the lyrics are so fucking whack. Like
I
straight up, so
yeah.
many times I'm like, what the fuck is she saying?
Like
Um,
whack is in like actually whack or like impossible to tell what's being said.
no, just what she's saying. Salt, pepper, birds. Like
Mm,
literally the lyrics are making me cringe.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I
with the
found
context of this being a video game and there being like a story behind it, I'm like, okay, maybe this could make sense. From a Place of Love, Children of the City, like Salt Pepper Birds, the lyrics on all those songs, I'm like, what the
What is going
fuck is
on?
she
yeah,
on?
it's just like if you were literally just like if we did like a
Yeah.
spoken poem, right
Yeah.
now with any of those lyrics, it would definitely that's say something like, huh.
Yeah.
Um, for me, I know from a place of love, that was one I probably vibe with the least. But considering the context that you had mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like
Yeah.
makes
supposed to
sense.
be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. No, that
That
makes
was
sense.
definitely one where I definitely would not just pick up and listen to that by its own.
No, definitely not. No, that makes sense. I think Salt Pepper Bird. So it's funny because I like say this is one of my favorite games. I actually haven't finished it because dude, I have like I could check my Steam.
Classic.
No, I have something like 80 hours in the game and I'm still not done.
Holy shit.
Like
Okay.
like it is a long game and it kind of runs into the problem that a lot of strategy games do where it's like the first levels are like fun and teaching you a lot. Yeah, I have 98.8 hours. I'm not done with the game.
Jeez.
Um it runs into the issue where the difficulty curve is very steep. And I actually love that. But at the end of the game, which I'm basically near the very end of the game, it's like, okay, if I'm gonna do this fight, this is gonna take like an hour and a half to like finish.
Right.
Because there's a lot of just stuff that's happening and a lot of like complexity that the first few missions you're like, oh, this is fun. I'm clicking buttons, I'm learning the game. And then you're like, holy smokes, I need to like do everything like perfectly to like not get destroyed.
Yeah.
But it's very fun. I really like this studio as like a game studio. I love that they work with Millie so often. They actually have it's technically a gotcha game, but this newest game they're working on is called Limbus Company. It also takes place in the city. It's much more like a battle pass s game where you can buy like the battle pass, which is like $10, and it gets you like basically everything you could want for the season. So I think it's on the scale of gotcha games less predatory, but it
Mhm.
builds on this world that Project Moon, the company, the game company that made this game, has built up, and I think it's really cool. Like I really love this style of world building. Again, my favorite fucked up thing that like was in Library of Runa was this idea of like, oh, the experience of like time and like how do humans cope with like being kind of in stasis for like 10 billion years, and like how does your psyche manage that? It's
Mhm.
just like, again, the fucked up depths of like human experience that's like possible. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
So
I
thanks.
think
Yeah.
I think I'd have a better appreciation of this album if I played the game.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, maybe it's just not for me. I don't know if I vibe with Millie's vocal quality.
I didn't think it would be for you. I feel like Eric could appreciate it because I know he just like likes Millie in general.
Mhm.
But like, I
Yeah.
definitely knew when I picked this, like, this is gonna be pretty out there for Luke. And like, again, because it's from a game, it's like if you don't have the context, like, how does the music stand on its own? For
Yeah.
me personally, I actually like it a lot because I just like Millie in general. But again, it helps to have the like, oh, this is playing when I'm doing this, or this is playing when I'm doing that.
Oh yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
think from a technicals perspective though, it's like very clear musical talent. And it's
Yes.
a wide range of genre like
Mhm.
being presented
Hmm.
in the album, which is
Yeah.
pretty impressive for like one band to be able to pull off.
Yeah.
So like that's all super cool.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
awesome.
I will say I actually don't like Millie's vocals typically that much.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually not the biggest fans of those kinds of vocals. It's a few songs from Millie I actually do enjoy. But
Okay.
overall, yeah, I don't actually listen to that much of her stuff because the vocals sometimes throw me a little off.
I see. Okay.
Uh, like I think I get it, like musically very
Yeah.
like talented.
Yeah.
But yeah, just sometimes yeah, those vocals aren't what do it for me. I
No, that's
actually am
super
someone who
fair.
likes deeper, more sultry vocals at times.
Yes, I do know you like the deeper sultry vocals. That is very true. I like both. I think I've gotten that comment a lot from people whenever I've played anything from Millie, where it's like, oh, these are very distinct vocals, and I don't think it's like necessarily for me. I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm,
I could see how it could be like grating or disturbing or like not exactly everyone's like cup of tea.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. And it's funny because we talk about my other album later. It's the exact
It is
opposite.
the exact opposite. Oh my goodness. All right.
Uh,
Shall we continue on to Luke's second album?
Yeah, we can go on to that one.
Yeah.
So the second album I recommended was it's an EP by Gabby Start. It's called Luca. It came out in 2022. Gabby Start has also produced music under the name Knapsack. He was producing work before. I think Luca was the first release as Gabby Start, but before he was producing as Knapsack.
Hmm.
Still produces as Knapsack just a little bit, but not so much.
Do
I
you
think the
know?
main
Yeah. Do
go
you
ahead.
know the lore behind like what the difference of like names is for? Or...
I think the Knapsack stuff was a lot more personal.
Interesting.
And I think as Gabby Start, he makes more music that is like creating characters. So not really
Okay.
drawing from experience explicitly. Um, Sorry, this is getting us off track a tiny bit, but one of my favorite Knapsack tracks is called Synthgrass,
Mhm.
and it's about it's a little dancier, more synth.
More
It's
grass.
about more grass. It's about like thinking of a time in your life that's past and
Ah,
wanting to go back.
those nostalgia
Um,
boners. Ugh.
exactly, yes. So yeah, and his last album as Knapsack, which was in 2020, was very personal. It was about like camping, about a breakup, about
Mm.
producing music. Buzz of a Lifetime, pretty
mhm.
good. Anyway, back to Luca though.
So interesting. This is like what? So why'd you recommend Luca and Gabby Start instead of Knapsack stuff? What about this made you want to recommend it?
So I think Luca's would be an easier listen to get into. There's more familiar instrumentation. I would consider Luca like closer to uh alt rock, pop punk, that type of music. There's more heavy guitar in it, based on compared to what he was making as Knapsack. Knapsack had more synth, more like producing, and more like beat making than I guess explicit instrumentation. Um, so yeah, Luca. I think as far as I can tell, this is my interpretation of the album. Luca tells the story of two friends, Luca and Sydney, and their relationship, and about growing up in a small town and navigating yearning. That's a big theme.
Yearning.
And then I don't know how connected it is, but at the end, someone dies.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's Luca.
Oh. I honestly didn't pick up the narrative as like clear. Like it seemed like there were elements of it in the album, but like it's funny because of the albums that were recommended to me, this actually was my favorite musically. Like this was the most in my genre wheelhouse. And maybe because of that, like I didn't pick up on like the lyrics like specifically as much, right? Like I was just bopping to the beats.
Yeah.
That is cool. It did seem like there was a story, and it seemed to like cover like a lot of like ideas and experiences. Like I think in one of the songs he's like literally like shouting about how like acid ruined his life or something, unless I'm misremembering the lyrics or misheard them.
Yeah,
I believe that would be
it's the Fractal song.
Fractal, right?
Song. Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's drugs could do that to you, man.
Yeah, that's another theme on the album is like drug abuse.
Yeah, drug substance.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's funny because when I was listening to it, some of my notes, so it kind of reminded me in weird ways of like 1975.
I could kind of see
there's
that.
like elements that like, there again, the themes also remind me, the like vocal style. They're just elements that remind me of it. I had another note which said this is not good Christian listening.
No, not at
There's
all.
literally not a single song on the album that doesn't have an explicit tag on it.
Yeah, literally. I was like, oh my. But again, I liked it. Fun fact, this album, like, so when I listen to music, sometimes if I like something enough where like, oh yeah, I would like this to just pop up in my like random like song playlist, I'll like it on Spotify. Of all the music that was recommended, this is the only album that I put something like on my playlist that I was like, oh yeah, I've listened to this. Yeah, this is the only one.
Interesting.
Do you have a guess as to which track it was?
Sydney?
It is not Sydney.
My guess would have been I want to say Rainbow Bridge.
That's funny. So you're both wrong. It was actually rock music.
Okay,
interesting.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Teva would like these lyrics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I did like Sydney and Rainbow Bridge. I think the thing that kept me from putting Rainbow Bridge on my list is, again, it starts with like kind of like spoken words instead of like singing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that interrupts my flow when I just want a playlist where like stuff is just playing. If that makes sense.
Oh no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Rainbow Bridge is the ending track when the first track is called rock music.
Yeah.
Because the spoken word portion of Rainbow Bridge is someone introducing a hometown band.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Right.
I did see that. And again, I didn't realize there was like a narrative going through. So I don't again, see, your complaint about like Jaewoong is dead was like, oh, it's too on the nose. My complaint is like, this isn't on the nose enough. I don't know what's going on, man. It's like not spelled out for me.
Well, the clearest thing is acid ruins someone's life, and someone is also in love with Sydney.
Yes. Those I did pick those up. I got that. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Eric?
So interestingly enough, this was actually one of my least favorite albums of the bunch we had.
It's so funny.
I'm interested in hearing why you don't like this one as much.
It's just and this is just as simple as I actually just don't like this style, like the electropop kind of music.
Oh, that's valid.
Yeah, in general, I just don't like that kind of electro with those kind of vocals. It's funny because when you had mentioned Knapsack, you mentioned Synthgrass. I went to go listen to it just for a little bit. I prefer that a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer that leagues more, actually. That's actually more my vibe. That I would actually put that on my playlist easy.
I am painting.
As it does
Synthgrass
give
is
me
great.
a little bit like, I wouldn't say MGMT, but like it kind of evokes a little MGMT, a little bit of oh, why am I blanking on the name? But a little more like electro synth pop kind of vibe, right? But like alt indie electro synth pop kind of thing. That's where I enjoy that a little more. Whereas like with Gabby Start, yeah, it really didn't hit for me. Like, that's not to say I liked Rainbow Bridge. That's just the one that I enjoyed the most. But yeah, I think maybe if I paid a little more attention to the lyrics, because part of it is I was driving as well too for a lot of these listens. I wasn't paying as close attention to the lyrics as I wanted to. But yeah, I couldn't really get into it personally. I
I
think
like that you liked Rainbow Bridge because it's the song that says "fuck you" in it.
yeah.
We're very
There seems to
simple.
be a
If it says
seems to be a
"fuck
recurring
you,"
theme.
yeah, Eric likes it. If it says "fuck around and find out," I like it. So
Yeah.
we're pretty consistent.
We're not very Christian friendly,
Yeah.
actually. We're sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, a lot of it is, I think, just the vocal tone quality is, dare I say, kind of whiny in like the way that it sounds for me, at least.
Yeah, he
That's-
has on albums as Gabby Start, he has a very different tonal quality that sounds closer to like
Pop.
emo, Midwest emo
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly that.
Yeah, and
that's
he grew up
oof.
in like Illinois, like
Mhm.
Chicago area,
That's
so
Midwest.
it's in the DNA.
It's emo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
and
funny.
I think and that's where like I do like my pop punk and things of that nature, but there are the certain bands where it has that vocal quality that I can't really get into.
No, I don't
It's-
blame you at all.
No,
It's the most like aesthetic, like on the surface thing, but I just can't.
I get that.
And I'm just not the biggest electro pop person. Sometimes it'll hit, but I think paired with the vocals, I really couldn't get into that one.
It's so funny that you mentioned that because I do have a note here that says he a little whiny and I like it. So
Oh man.
so we are consistent. It's really funny. I already know what I'm doing for the thumbnail. It's the 3-headed like Hydra dragon thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just you guys with like musical knowledge and expertise, and it's just me being like, "Oh, it sounded kind of nice. It was like a little poppy. I liked it."
Yeah, Eric, you might like Godspeed from Knapsack. That was the
Mhm.
first thing I ever heard from him years ago. And then honestly, Buzz of a Lifetime is an interesting album as like a concept, but it's closer to what he does as Gabby Start. So you might not like it as much. Yeah, and it's interesting because there's going back to the idea of like lines being mentioned later on. There's like the theme of smoking and like you shouldn't be smoking. Maybe I shouldn't be smoking. Like talking about cigarettes and all that comes up a lot. There's a couple, I don't want to say samples, but there's one line that's Luca being whispered that is in a lot of the songs. And then there's also the
I'd noticed that, yeah.
there's also the like I can't find the line. There, oh yeah, you don't do shit. You never do anything with your fucking life. That pops up in songs too, as like a repeated sample.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, like, listening to Godspeed right now, yeah, this is more my speed by far.
Oh yeah.
So I think Knapsack, I definitely, yeah, it's interesting how you can actually have such a different level of production and just have such a completely different sound. Where for me, at least, it's, I would say like so drastically different. I wouldn't go as far to say that, but it's pretty different.
Yeah, it makes sense why he's producing stuff under a different name.
Mm-hmm.
If this is the direction he's wanted to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the second half of the album, IMO, I like better than the first. And Rainbow Bridge in particular is like a really interesting song about death and grieving and dealing with like tragedy, basically.
Right. And I do like that, which quick thing, because I actually just played this, and this is a really tangential thing. I just played Gris recently.
Oh,
and that soundtrack
okay.
is also, I quite like as well too.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Yeah, but yes, good soundtrack, good game. But also, yeah, I always like content that does talk about grief. But it's funny because I genuinely say I love that kind of stuff, especially when it comes to like human condition, talking about like loss and grief, things like that, and like mediums for that. But it seems I learned, no matter how interesting the lyrics may be, if the what it's packaged in is not to my liking, then I guess I don't enjoy it.
Well, I think
So speaking of to your liking,
ooh, that's true. Good transition, dude. My man. I will say on that, I just want to say one thing, which is I have this philosophy at like food. Like I like eating at nice restaurants, and same with music. Like you can do interesting and creative stuff with it, but first it has to like be good at the baseline, right? So for like food, first it has to taste good, then you can do whatever fancy stuff you want to do with it, like presentation wise. I think with music, first you gotta like the music, and then you can be like, okay, what's the like deeper meaning here? What are you trying to say? Because
Mhm.
otherwise you could just read a book about like this kind of stuff, right? Like the whole point of it
Yeah,
being
yeah.
expressed in like a musical form is like the music adds something to the meaning.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was curious because I literally had this open and that kind of just brings back because when we're talking about Millie,
Yeah.
especially like the lyrics, which are kind of funky.
Yeah.
Like there was one I remember listening to. I was like, I had to go search it back. I remember just hearing. I was like, that's a really weird lyric.
Yeah.
And this one that's we're packed in a cargo choo choo train.
Wait, is that is that is
Is
that
this your
from
man's?
it?
Is this your man's, Eva?
That is my man. I love it. It's funny. Just jumping back to Millie very quickly. Like I think this happens in a lot of her songs and her lyrics where the lyrics are almost like I give it like an abstract, like, if you want things not spelled out, it is not spelled out at all. I don't know if there's a spelling, but like it's very abstract, right? Like
Mhm.
You
there's
build a picture based on what she's saying, but the picture's fucking weird.
people call her the Vincent Van Gogh or the Picasso of our times,
Oh.
really, musically.
Oh.
I don't know my artist genres that well. Salvador Dali, I don't know. Anyway,
I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back.
okay, you do that.
Let's chop it.
Let's chop
know
it.
what?
We'll chop it.
I'll
You
pee.
piss.
I will also
Okay, you
pee.
guys piss. I'll chop it right here.
Pee break,
Hour
pee break.
mark. Pee break. Pee break. Don't tell them, cast or listeners. I don't know why I called you guys cast. I'm not gonna chop it, and I'm gonna have like sounds of them pissing in the background.
Okay, I'm back.
For sure. Sounds good.
Eric is still muted, so
Eric's
I'm
still,
assuming
yeah, I
he's
think
not
he's
back.
peeing. See, this is why I peed before we started. I just knew.
Bro, I've just been drinking so much water.
Dude, I'm so happy for you. I'm glad you're so hydrated, man.
Thank you.
Always important to be a hydro homie.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Are you,
Maybe I should have
I
recommended
finished peeing.
maybe I should have recommended a knapsack album instead.
I mean, I think it's fine. I like. I don't know. I felt like coming into this, like in terms of like musical taste and genre, like in this case, I feel like Eric is like the bridge between us. And so I think it's good that you recommended stuff that was like more in Eric's like alley, more up his alley, and stuff that was also more up my alley. But I also think
I think it is more interesting for the fact that Teva's like, I actually like this album the most. I'm like, I actually like this album the least. I think
is
that makes
funny.
it way more interesting.
Yeah,
overall.
yeah, I think it's funny. I do think if you recommended knapsack stuff, my guess is Eric would like it a lot more, and I'd probably be like, yeah, it was solid. It was aight.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you'd say Knapsack is more esoteric overall?
No, knapsack is different producing.
Okay.
Gabby starts content and like focus. He has some weird ass lyrics. That's why I recommended this album, Luca, over like his other album, Alex. 'Cause Alex has some really weird lyrics on it. Also, if you want to hear Gabby start at his whiniest sounding, you should listen to Locals, Girls Like Us by Underscores. Because Gabby Start's verse on there is so fucking funny.
Wait,
So
don't I know
funny.
this song? Like,
I don't
I
know.
feel like I know this song.
Yeah, he comes in like halfway through. This is another weird ass song. I'm in my weird music era.
You really
I can
are.
Yeah, it's been great. It's opening horizons for sure.
It is sick. It is interesting for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because it's like, oh, you're in this weird music era, but you like kind of had it in you all along. Like, what was in college? You listened to the fucking like weirdo like what were they called, dude? Do you remember?
There's a lot of weirdos.
It was like you had a big phase. Like they had a weird ass name too. It was like it wasn't metal. It was like
Oh, Death Grips.
Death Grips. Thank you.
Oh, I still listen to Death Grips.
Oh my god.
Every night that we do karaoke, it gets to a point where if Theo's there and I'm there, we're singing I've Seen Footage.
That's so funny. I still like remember you playing this for me in like college. I'm like, it's a vibe. It's not my vibe, but it's a vibe.
Speaking of a vibe,
Yeah. What's
Eric?
Eric's vibe?
Let's get
Yeah.
6 feet beneath the moon.
Ooh,
Aha,
which
yes.
is
and
actually
that would
pretty.
be.
That's pretty close to the moon, low key. No.
It kind of is, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah. So Six Feet Under the Moon is an album that was released by King Cruel, formerly known as Zoo Kid. So Zoo Kid was kind of the first moniker that he went by back in, I think, 2010. I want to say. I didn't keep good notes on this actually. I'm gonna be honest.
That's fair.
But the most notable thing is, well, I guess there's a few things. One, when this album was released, it was released back in 2013. And I think the craziest part about it for me is similar to Lord. I think he was like 17. It was like 17 or 19 or something like that. Stupid young. Really, really, really young when he first produced this album and released it. And it
April
was
son or Lord daughter.
Shut up. But he's an English singer songwriter, so all the lyrics will have that little edge to them for sure. Like this guy doesn't speak English normal, but he has a very distinct voice, similar to Millie in the sense that it's very distinct.
Yeah.
Completely dissimilar in the fact that if Millie is the very high range of vocals, King Cruel is the complete pits.
If Millie is a ghost, King Cruel is a corpse.
Jesus.
Dude, sorry, I'll edit that down. That was bad, but I was like, oh my god, dude. That's so true.
It's honestly true though. Yeah. But I personally really, really like this album. One, in general, like it's a little less cohesive, I would say, overall compared to the other albums we've talked about. There's still levels of it, but in general, this I really chose it because one, interesting, like super interesting vocals, super interesting lyrics, and overall, I just like the music. I just really like this album. Not every song on the album, though. I will be honest. Not every single song on the album is something that I would actively listen to all the time, but it just has a like if in my head, this is the kind of music you would listen to when you're driving down a rainy freeway and you're smoking out of your car, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
At nighttime. Like it's that kind of vibe for me. And that's the kind of music that I live for in a lot of cases. So this is the kind of music where if you're like, oh, what kind of music does Eric like? Yeah, you could listen to this album and have a pretty good idea of the general music I listen to. But I would say for me, there's probably I don't know, like there's a few songs that one also emotionally hit me quite a bit as well too. Someone being like Ocean Bed, and like I don't know, Baby Blue as well too, to an extent. The like not just like personal experiences as well too, but sometimes just like an emotional sense is and just like the vibe that it has. Like I know for me, sometimes I find me doing this from time to time. I don't know if you guys ever do this. Do you guys ever just some days wake up instead of choosing violence, you just choose to be sad and you listen to sad music?
This implies that most days you choose violence.
Maybe you should choose to speak to a qualified professional about this.
Sometimes not. Sometimes you just want to. No. Sometimes you want to be moody, and sometimes this, for me, is kind of the moody music at times.
You know, the only time I felt like that was after a breakup.
Oh no!
So
I feel like there are like definitely like times and days where it's just like the energy is low.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You like wake up and the energy bar like it didn't fully restore after your long rest. I don't know if I've ever woke up and felt like putting on King Cruel though. I don't know if that one's for me, but I get the vibe. It's very much kind of like Millie. It's a very distinct vibe. I only have 2 notes for this because there's a lot of tracks. And I don't think I had the level of like just I have not listened to music like this very much. And so I think for me, I fully believe the tracks are very like distinct and have like unique elements and sounds, but to me a lot of the vibe like blended together for me because I just haven't listened to a lot of this and he's British. So like
Eva's approaching this like he's at the Museum of Modern Art looking at something he doesn't understand.
Literally, I'm like, I don't know how to say
artifacts.
This. I'm sure there are merits to this piece.
I'm sure there are merits. People, one of my notes is, why is this drunk British man shouting at me?
Yeah, that's fair, honestly.
Yeah, and then I revised it later to be like, why is this sad drunk British man shouting at me? um,
uh,
yeah,
uh,
it is very distinct. I don't think it's really my thing. I think it's um a little kind of like rough around the edges for me, and maybe it was because of the accent, maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention, but I didn't really get what most of the songs were about, like lyrically. Like I'm sure I could like look through and study them, but just like kind
hmm.
of on a first pass basis, I was like, well, he seems sad in this one, and in this one he's like shouting about something, and I'm sure it like, means something and is about something. It just didn't come to me. I think similar to what you said about like the Gabby Start stuff, Eric. It's like,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Teva's
yeah,
reached the same conclusion.
it's just like, oh, I just don't really like this type of music. And so like, despite what he's talking about, which is probably like very real, it just doesn't reach me, right?
I forget what exact lyric it was, but in my notes I have, he is not a very considerate lover.
It
Oh
was
no.
probably Baby Blue is my guess.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's no, I totally get that. And that's kind of why I chose this guy. I knew it was gonna be a little more off the beaten path for you, Teva.
Yeah.
And I was curious to see what your thoughts on it, because yeah, this kind of music, I love this kind of stuff because there is a certain unrefined quality to King Cruel's music where it's kind of garage band-ish a little bit, because the instrumentation overall is actually not overly complicated, right? Like relatively simple guitar and relatively simple bass, but the way that it's used and mixed, I just it tickles that bone for me that I really 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 like.
This is
And mm,
no. This is kind of funny because it's funny that you mentioned that the like instrumentals are like simple in the background. I don't know if you remember this, Luke, but like way
Hmm.
back in college, we would like have conversations about this where we realized, one, that I was basic, and two, my like base formula for like what I like at a baseline is like strong frontal vocals, and then like cool like, instrumentals in the background, like a lot
Yeah.
going on in the background with like strong front vocals. And I
Mhm.
think that's definitely like, yeah, the background instrumentals were not as much my like uh my vibe, my genre, I guess. And then the style of frontal vocals was also like less like he has a very powerful voice. It's just like different, It's not like booming.
mhm.
It's like drunk slurring, kind of like, you know.
Like, it's very raw.
Yeah, it's very raw. Yes.
I
Mhm.
I think a good way to describe King Cruel's music is that the sounds you're hearing, the individual noises, they are recognizable as instruments and as music. But structurally, it's very structurally abstract. What the
Mixed together.
noises are doing is not what you would expect them to be doing.
Mm.
And usually, like vocally, the transition from verse to chorus is not clear on first listen through. And because the guitar can be so sparse sometimes, it's hard to tell, like, oh, am I in a bridge? Is this a pre-chorus?
Mhm.
You know?
And that's where it's like it's a very interesting listening experience because it's a little jarring at times, right? And I think for me, I don't know how long, because I'll be honest, when I first listened to King Cruel, I don't know when I found them. It was quite a few years back. Um, it definitely was not like an immediate attraction to it. I think I had listened to, it was probably Baby Blue first. I think it was the first track I ever found from them. I did like it, but I listened to other things like, wow, this is different. And eventually, yeah, it became one of those artists that I just ended up really really liking. Um,
Yeah, it's
and
kind
he
of
had
like an
some.
acquired taste.
It
Yeah.
totally is an acquired taste kind of thing, and it took me a little bit of time for sure. It wasn't like an instant attraction to it. It took me a little bit of time. Like I said, only one song where I was like, okay, I could listen to this, but now listening to a lot of it, yeah, this is kind of stuff where if I'm just walking by myself and have my headphones in, like I would happily just have this playing in my ear all the time. I would not mind that at all. It's
Uh,
just. Mm,
yeah. I will say I have tried to listen to King Cruel before. It just didn't stick.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
this was back in 2017, right when the Ooze came out, and everyone was talking about, oh, King Cruel released some new music. I'm like, oh, I'll check out this King Cruel guy. Uh, didn't stick then. I will say of all the albums that we listened to that were recommended, This grew on me the most.
Oh, interesting.
That being said, it also had the lowest floor.
No.
Yeah, I do agree with that, right? Because there's a lot of tracks where even when I was listening back to it again this time, there's I'm like, I'm not really into the song, and then there's also a few songs that I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I do actually like this song. The more I listen to it,
So you have what's your least favorites, Eric?
I think sentimentality. That's the one I like the least. Just like musically and lyrically as well too. Like it doesn't really hit for me at all, I would say. But again, with like a lot of King Cruel tracks, a lot of it's like me listening to it and then listening to it more. I'm like, huh, okay, I do like this.
Yeah,
Like
I actually really agree with the sentiment of like it growing the most because I felt the same way. Like I listened to it the first time, I was like, oh, this is not for me, and then I was like literally listening it in the car today. I'm like, oh, it's not like it's not that bad. It's all right.
and that's no, it's legitimately the King Cruel experience. I'm
Yeah.
just like, wait a minute, and, like, I can kind of get into this. But yeah, I would say sentimentality is the one I actually like the least. I think out of like majority of things because I think every one of the other songs on the album has merits to it. Like and I think there's something I find with a lot of King Cruel songs. There's certain parts where it kind of climaxes to this one point where you're like where the guitar really kicks in and all the instruments and the vocals kind of thrown together into this kind of swelling last bit, which I actually tend to enjoy quite a bit. And does that in a few of his songs. I would say like Out Getting Ribs is a very classic one where it's this very calm, relaxed vibe all throughout. And then it gets towards the end where it kind of builds and builds and builds into this one last kind of hoorah, I guess, if you really want to put it that way. I'm really not being succinct with it, with how I'm describing it. But like that, I always kind of like, I always like this kind of emotional end to it, which I like. Uh, and I think that's where a lot of his songs do that for me. I think like Has This His another one that also does that. I don't know. It always makes me want more for it, and I think that's always what makes me replay it for that one moment sometimes as well too.
I do
Some of
like that
my
in music generally. Like I agree with that sentiment, just not for this like specific genre, but I agree with the sentiment a lot.
Some of my notes for this album include guitarist sounds like he took a wrong turn. Guitarist is lost again. Does he sound like this when he talks?
I think he actually does.
That's funny. I want to see an interview of the guy.
I actually watched an interview with him. I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I expected actually.
That's funny.
I think my favorites from this album were Borderline. Probably is the favorite. I think that is structurally most recognizable as a song.
Damn.
And
This is like the most subtle shade. Like Luke was just like straight up like, yeah, you know, Millie wasn't really for me. It's not my thing. It's like, yeah, you could call this music in a certain sense. Like,
you know, like I'm just saying this after like 3 listens, right?
No,
the songs that are most familiar are gonna stick more.
Yeah.
And I liked Lizard State.
Yeah,
I literally, the lyrics made me laugh out loud. I'm like, this guy is bonkers. And it felt like the only up-tempo song on the album. It may not have been the only up-tempo song, but
no,
it felt
it
like
is
the only up-tempo
probably the
song.
most up-tempo one out there. I'm trying to think what would be closest to it. Like Borderline is also relatively higher. But yeah, definitely Lizard State would be the one that's probably the. Yeah, I think I confidently say that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because yeah, some of his lyrics are, I wouldn't say like necessarily nonsensical, but they're kind of nonsensical at times.
Yeah, it's so of what I like from what I recall listening to the album, I will say it's funny because Baby Blue did stand out to me as well, and it's funny that you mentioned it as like the first song you like kind of found like King Cruel from because. At least for me, it felt like very it didn't blend in as much with like the other songs. Like it felt very distinct. And this is the where I changed it to like, oh, sad drunk man. Like, you know. So I did like Baby Blue.
The lyrics on Lizard State are so funny. I do not want to read these out loud.
I was gonna say,
but the end of verse 1 before the pre-chorus, and then verse 2 is so funny.
Oh my goodness.
It's so funny.
We really covered such a wide genre, didn't we?
Yeah, truly.
Yeah. I honestly didn't expect us to actually get this wide of a range.
I think it worked out really well in terms of the distinct range.
Really funny stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say Baby Blue was your favorite one though?
I think it was mine. I think it was the one that like stood out the most to me and felt like especially after us talking, like as we talk, like my opinion changes, and like I think a lot of the things you mentioned, I'm like, yeah, that does really resonate with like Baby Blue, like so I don't know, it kind of made me appreciate it more as like an emotional piece. Not as much musically, but like emotionally. Yeah.
All
I'm so
right.
sad. Yeah.
I will say
yeah.
for in particular, Baby Blue has this one like towards the end of the song. There's some parts where if you like, you're not really sure exactly what the lyrics are saying. And okay, in all fairness, that's kind of how
It's
majority
like
of
all
people
the
do it.
songs, yeah.
But there's a certain point where the lyrics go like, "She was bobbing, I was throbbing." You're like, "Wait, did I hear that right?" Like
Probably.
I'm
Wait,
like, I'm not really sure if I heard that right. But I was like, is
I
this?
feel like the more I listen to music, the more I realize it's all just horny, man. It's all just horny, man. I'm like everything's an innuendo.
You know, it kind of be like that.
Or just funny.
There is one song actually that I really like that's actually not even on Spotify, I don't think. Rock Bottom by King Cruel is a really, really good
Oh
track as
wow,
well too.
it's
So we like SpongeBob too.
Yeah, he really likes SpongeBob.
it's it's rare to find a track that's not on Spotify these days. There's so much
Yeah,
on it.
I think there's licensing things. Like there's a few songs
Yeah,
from like
totally.
21 Pilots and whatnot. Like when I used to listen to them that weren't on Spotify because it was
Mm.
from their like a previous album from a different uh, producer or something like that. Yeah, whatever reason it was, it's just not on Spotify. Rock Bottom is one of those songs where really fantastic song. Yeah, it's just not on Spotify. But it would fit pretty much right in place within 6 Feet Under the Moon for sure. But
Nice.
yeah,
Shall we
I like that. But yeah, let's move on
shall we keep it moving?
to.
Speaking of
Ooh.
my classics, which with strong leading vocals and nice instrumentals, I picked a classic for my second album. I picked Vices and Virtues by Panic at the Disco. This is actually the oldest album of all the things we picked. This came out in 2011. It's it's a bit of a ways back. Part of the reason I picked this album, so I would have been like probably in high school when this came out, and I like discovered Panic in like middle school. They kind of always had like a weird like sound to them. They were more like quirky. They had a little more of like a like they're kind of out there vibe, and this is like the first album where they started to sound more like what like Panic at the Disco today sounds like, but still more, in my opinion, moderated and less like kind of like. And again, I don't know music terminology so well, but like less aggressive. There was like less like shouting and like anger and like roughness, I would say, compared to some of the more modern Panic. Um, Another fun fact about like Panic at the Disco started as a band of I think like 4 or 5 people. When this album came out, everybody but 2 members of the band like left the band. So this is just like the front man, I think Brendan Urie, and then some other guy who I don't remember. And
Who probably isn't there anymore.
So this is just Panic and Disco.
this is Panic and Disco. And after this album, it became just Panic. No more disco. So this is like the last Panic album, which is not just Brendan Urie using the name Panic. So a lot of fun like historical context to this album. The main reason though that I pick it is like this is the only Panic album, and this is one of the few albums where it's like every track on the album I actually like. Like there's not a single track I don't personally like, which I think is rare in like an album, like you mentioned, even with like the King Cruel stuff. It's like, you know, yeah, some tracks you don't really mess with, but like I just find that this is like a very like nice, neat, tidy package with stuff that I enjoy.
Would you say your favorite song from Panic is on this album?
Uh yeah, I'd say so. I'd say like most of my favorite Panic songs are actually from this album. Um and again, it partially combines like various elements I like, which is I like a lot of the softer Panic songs, like songs that are more like not
Just
like
anxiety at
just
the disco.
anxiety at the disco. Yeah, but I think like when people think of Panic at the Disco, at least historically, it's like loud, boisterous, like aggressive, like I don't know, I think like, you know, he made an album like Death of a Bachelor. Like imagine getting married and being like, I gotta make music about this. Like, oh my God, I'm married and I'm no longer a bachelor, like death of a bachelor. I
Love that
think this
song.
is more chill, But also, upon listening to it and looking at the lyrics, I'm like, oh, this is also horny.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
Very.
it is called Vices and Virtues, which
And it's also
tracks.
Brendan Urie.
And it's also Brendan Urie. But like when I was in high school, I was like, dude, this just sounds like a bop. And now I'm like, oh my god, he was
I was
horny.
singing this in front of my parents. Oh my lord.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. What are y'all's thoughts on the album or songs
I
as a
mean,
whole?
classic. I also do like Panic. I don't think I listen to it nearly as much now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, previously, listened to a non-zero amount of Panic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also enjoyed this album a decent amount as well too. I still think, for me, I think I actually like all the songs. There's only one song I think I would actually say that I actually don't like as much. It's not like I directly dislike it, but it's Ready to Go.
Oh,
And it's
interesting.
for the sole fact that it's actually very repetitive.
It is very repetitive.
And that in songs is also something on the surface that really will turn me off from a song. Like
Yeah.
if I skip through a song, let's say I select any timestamp in a song, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like the exact timestamp of another point of the song.
Yeah.
Repeatedly throughout multiple points, I don't like that as much. I tend to lose interest in songs.
Definitely.
And that's probably why I don't like pop as much, is my guess.
Yep.
As well too, just or R&B for that matter.
I mean, this was also like released in like kind of a bit of a different era, right? Like 2011, I think radio was still pretty big. You kind of want those radio bangers that like have that quality where actually it's like, oh, you turn the radio channel on and it's like, oh yeah, I know what song this is. Like it's playing the same thing as it did like 2 minutes ago, right? Like
Yeah.
So I think there's an element of that. I do agree that Ready to Go. I actually like Ready to Go, but I do agree it is very repetitive. But it's just kind of like a in the background bop. But yes, I get that. I get that a lot.
It's funny. I
Yeah.
think Ready to Go is probably what I wrote on my notes. Ready to Go is a banger, all caps.
It is a banger. it is a banger in my opinion. I think because it's such a banger that like it is repetitive, but it's a repetitive banger. I don't know how to describe it, like
No, I agree. And that's where like said and this is just me in general, like just with like pop music. It's like it'll be a banger, but then I get tired of it so quickly.
totally, yeah.
I get really, really, really
Yeah.
bored of it.
Ready to Go was one of my favorites, like the first listen around, and now it's like fallen behind quite a few other tracks because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised by how many of these I
Memories.
knew.
Memories will always be a classic.
Well, you know why you know so many of them.
Why?
It's because when I drove us around in college, I would like play like half the tracks from this album on my playlist.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's literally like, oh, I was like listening to this for like so long. This is like a kind of like a from the archives kind of pick.
Yeah, and that's so. I mean, kind of going back to your point of like, obviously the structure of Panic. That's something that always, I wouldn't say turns me off, but I always feel like mildly uncomfy when I think about Panic. Is the fact that it is literally just Brendan Urie. Like it is no longer a cohesive like band unit anymore.
No, definitely.
And I don't know this. I don't remember the story or the circumstances. Like I don't know how many of them were good breaks, bad breaks. But it always makes it kind of sad. Like there's a reason why I like Young the Giant. Like I would have, if obviously we weren't all familiar with Young the Giant, I would have chosen like a Young the Giant like album, right? Because they've stuck together. I don't think maybe had like one change I think in member, but that's because they went off to do their own thing. But overall, like they stay cohesive, and I like that a lot. Because for me, it's like I like bands not just for the individual in a lot of cases, because all the other supporting cast as well too, right? When it comes to like drums, guitar, all these different things, and I just tend to enjoy bands a lot more when they still have that cohesive unit.
Yeah, it's hard to like, I've never been part of a band and I don't really understand the creative process, but I do feel like there's an element of like, you get a different style of music when like people with different specialties and expertise are all like intellectually contributing to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like, again, this is kind of why I say like, this is the last Panic album that I really liked. And I do think part of that is like, oh, then it just became like Brendan Urie's like music. And I think he has like a great voice and a very like powerful voice, but I don't know if I like his like specific style of music as much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's where I think and this is like tangential to that. This was the thing that messed me up the most. Are you familiar with a Japanese band called Wednesday Campanella?
I feel like I've heard the name before, but I don't know anything about them.
So Wednesday Campanella is basically they're kind of a mix of things. But long story short, they had a female lead and like a lot of electronic producing in the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, I was like, oh yeah, Winston Campanella is the chick, right? Turns out it's not actually the case.
Hmm.
It's actually the producer because they switched out the lead vocalist.
Oh.
And it is still the strangest thing in my head because I like the music a lot, but it just it had a complete cast change as far as like who the main face of it actually was.
I think there was a very prominent Japanese group that had a similar thing happen. I think they're called Supercell. You probably have heard of them, Eric.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Where again, when it's so funny how like tied the vocals are to the like identity of the band, because they also switched their like lead vocalist, and it just like it's like a different group after that, right? Like it doesn't feel like the same group when you switch out the vocals. At least for me personally, Linkin Park is a huge like
that's
example
obviously very recent.
Yeah, and it is true. So like Panic at the Disco being just Brendan Urie, I'm like, I feel like that makes sense because he's always been like the sound of Panic. Like it's one of those things where I'm biased based on my preferences, but I do think compared to like playing an instrument, like don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are like instrumentalists like who are just like really good and very distinct with the way they play, and it just goes above my head. But I think for like vocals, it's like it's one of the most easy to identify unique aspects of like a different musical group.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think my biggest gripe with this album is the lyrics on some of them are cringe.
They are cringe. They are cringe. And I was listening to it, I'm like, oh, he's horny and cringe.
Ever since we met, I only shoot up with your perfume.
I know, dude. I was like, oh my god, dude. This guy is fucking.
He's a simp.
He's a simp. Yeah.
Yeah, that's honestly what made me not like some of the songs that I would have otherwise liked musically. Because I'm like, these lyrics are kind of turning me off.
They are.
Musically, it's a really fun album, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just big and bold.
Yes, it is big and bold.
Very,
much like
very,
him.
like classic Panic. Yeah.
But yeah, so did you have any favorite songs, Luke?
Hurricane and Ready to Go were favorites.
Yeah.
I Nearly Witches, Ballad of Mona Lisa, and Memories were all axed because of lyrics.
Oh, that's fair. It's so funny because historically Memories has been my favorite album of the track, but I can't even think about what the lyrics are saying. Like, I don't know what it's about.
I feel like there's maybe one thing that he said.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's too melodramatic.
Oh, that's fair.
It's a little too spelled out.
Oh yeah, it's too spelled out. It's like memories. Yeah, where'd you go? You're all I've ever known. Like, oh my god. Yeah. I feel like he is, but again, that is in line with his like character. It is very spelled out. It is very like in your face. I think
otherwise I like that. Except what's funny is the opening guitar riff sounds like a ringtone.
Oh,
let me see.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah, it does. I know what you're talking about. It's like, oh, dum dum dum.
For Memories, right?
Memories, yeah.
Oh yeah,
like
you know what I mean.
It also sounds like the opening for like some like Home Depot commercial or something like that as well too.
It's so funny. One of my notes, one of the tracks, Sarah Smiles. Every time the song starts, I feel like I'm in an Olive Garden, and I don't know why. It's like something about the accordion that they use. It's just like it gives me just Olive Garden vibes.
Oh my gosh, you're so right.
Yeah.
Oh
it's
no.
So funny.
Oh, some of my notes on this also include like this must have been before adding interludes as separate tracks was a a
Yes,
like because the end of Hurricane has just this random
1 minute
long
like
ass
interlude.
1 minute instrumental.
Yeah, it totally is. And it's one of my pet peeves with the album. Like listening to it, it's like some of the tracks are just like annoying to put into your playlist because they have this 1 minute like bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why we got Benthic Zone Parking Lot.
Exactly, which is now my least favorite track. So you got to displace it.
It's all right. We have plenty more room for least favorites.
That's true. I think for me today, like if I had to say my favorite song of the track today, it's probably Trade Mistakes. Which is again also very spelled out and like in your face, but and this brings me back to my other album, which is Millie and Iron Lotus, where I feel like I describe it as like both these songs have like lullaby elements in them almost. Like there's something like comforting about some of the music, which is like that I like in like the background instrumentals. So Yeah. Did
It's
you
very,
have a
it's very comfort listen, you know?
Yeah, it's very comfort, and it is like, this album's over 10 years old. It's been out for a bit. Did you have a favorite, Eric, or?
I mean, I will never say no to Ballad of Mona Lisa and Memories.
Yeah, that's
Like, I
like the
think those are just the
classic.
classic,
They are
like
classics.
songs for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, overall, like I think it's one of those where I'll never not listen, to this
Yeah.
album as well too.
When I picked it, I was like, this is like, in my opinion, like of the things that were like, this is like probably a pretty easy listen. It's like pretty approachable. Like
Mhm.
Panic is kind of like, was certainly in the genre of like mainstream pop. Like yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Yeah.
why don't
So
we
we've been saving
flip
the
to the
best for
opposite of
last.
approachable? We've
Yeah.
been skirting around a droopy guy here.
A droopy guy.
A droopy guy coming in with our last album, 410 monthly listeners, down 60 since the last time we mentioned it. It's
410?
Droop
Dude, wait.
with MK Ultra HD.
This is so fun. I didn't even realize this was a reference to anything. I didn't know what MK Ultra was.
Yeah, man, it's that whole government program to
Yeah.
try to create sleeper agents.
Yeah, it's so funny. Someone had to explain that to me. I'm like, dude, that's such a funny reference. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
What do you mean?
Ultra HD.
Yeah.
I
So-
think the easiest ways we can describe this is high compression, loud synths,
Uh-huh.
extensive sampling.
Yeah.
Yeah, this also qualifies as like the low bass genre.
Mm-hmm.
Some of his other stuff is more clearly low bass, but this is much more like compressed SoundCloud producing.
Yeah. Well,
very shrill sometimes even.
can you remind me again, like what percentage of like listeners you're in, Luke, for this?
0.005% of Droop's monthly listeners. 3 of my 5 top songs were Droop songs.
That's so funny.
That's
Were any of them
actually
from
so
this
funny.
playlist?
Yes, 1 was from MK Ultra HD, and 2 were from the bottom rung.
I see. Nice.
And which one is the one from MK Ultra HD?
You guys should check. You guys should guess. Which one do you think it is?
You go first, Eric. I can't do this, man.
Bion Meat.
Teva, what's your guess?
That was also gonna be my guess. I'm gonna say Internet.
Dude, Internet's such a funny song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is Beyond Me.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
hilarious.
It's one of those where actually, for me, I could kind of listen to the entirety of the album, not really think too much of it. Actually, I think for me, Olive, this is like really easy background music for me.
Yeah, you guys are cut from a different cloth. Easy background music. I feel like I'm going through like a tunnel of like experiences.
I don't know. Is it like that for you too, Luke? By any chance? Like, I would listen to this. I was just like, oh, okay, I can vibe this.
Literally, this album and the other album that I've listened to of his, The Bottom Rung, it's just a very concise chunk of sound. MK Ultra HD is like less than 17 minutes, right? So you could run an errand, maybe go to the grocery store, listen to all of MK Ultra HD, and feel like the most powerful man in the building.
See, I get that. I would just listen to literally anything else to get that feeling.
I don't know, man. There's something about this album that just makes me feel unstoppable.
That's sick. I love that.
Have you tried drugs instead?
Actually.
How would you explain this to your friends if you had to? Now that I've explained it to you all and the listeners.
For me, if I were to say like, hey, there was this one person called Droop, and they had this album called MK Ultra HD, I would say like, yeah, you can listen to the entire album and not be able to pick out like what one song even distinctly was. Like for me, in a lot of the cases where I was listening to it, like man, like if you gave me a sample of any one of the songs, I'd be like, I don't know which one of the songs this is from. It kind of sounds all the same for me at a certain point. Like it's still distinct, not to say, but yeah, a lot of it is very much a lot of the same audio cues for me.
Yeah, it's funny because there's kind of that same but different feeling with this and 6 Feet Below the Moon. This you
I
can
thought that too.
structurally tell. You can like structurally tell that it's songs, and you can kind of pick out bits and pieces if you listen to one in isolation. It's like, okay, this is building up to a bridge or like to a chorus, but it's using sounds that you would not expect. So it's kind of a flip. But also, like, as tracks, some of these, if you haven't listened to them a lot, they are kind of indistinguishable from one another in the same way that King Cruel might be to a new listener.
Yeah. I think I felt a lot of similarity between this and King Cruel, not like necessarily like musically, but in my experience of them.
I could 100% see that.
Where I was just like, I'm not sure what I'm listening to, and I'm not. Again, it's funny because I don't have as much like musical background or training or just like intuition, and so like I don't like consciously pick up on like the structures or this idea of like bridges and verses. Like I'm sure I could get verses and choruses, but like yeah, like structurally both of them like throw me for a loop. Like I don't know what I'm expecting, but my brain isn't getting it. I if I were to try and describe this to my friends, I would literally start with like, so my friend Luke's a funny guy. And it's I don't think I could even describe it to another person. Like I just don't have the vocabulary in my repertoire to be like, dude, you just gotta listen to it. I don't know, man.
Yeah, genuinely, these tracks in isolation are harder to listen to than the album as a whole sequentially.
That makes sense.
Yeah, going back to like album or like tracks linking up and flowing from one to the other. What Eric said about like, oh, I don't know where one track ends and the other begins. Yeah, that is totally fair to say for MK Ultra HD. The transitions can be like very quick, like a very quick switch up. But I like the way that it all flows together in this kind of the same way that our first album did.
Yeah, it's funny. I have like just a giant note for like the whole thing, which is y'all picked a lot of albums where the songs flow right into the next one. You guys, it happened for like 3 of the 5 albums.
Yeah.
It just makes for a fun listening experience.
It does though. No, it's good. It's cool.
Yeah, like and I mentioned this before one time. Like there was a few times where I was listening to like a playlist and it actually did like the sequential song in like a random shuffle, and that was like the most mind blowing thing. Always a fun time. But yeah, it's just overall, I actually liked it. I don't know if I'll still consistently be part of that 400. I don't know if I'll be the 416th. Monthly listener, but I definitely like it. Again, it's one of those bits of music where I can kind of put it on the background and like, I'm like, okay, cool.
Luke, I've got bad news for you, man.
Oh, it's the news I've been
expecting. And I hate to say it because
we knew it was terminal.
It is terminal. This is probably the least favorite of the albums that y'all recommended for me. Which is probably far from a surprise for you.
I came into this expecting to play the most out of left field stuff. So
yeah, no, I really enjoyed the experience though, because I was genuinely like, I'm so curious what Luke gets from this music that I don't.
Did you have a favorite or least favorite track, did they blend together?
I actually did have a favorite, and I'm curious if you can guess it.
Max Hell?
No, that was how I felt listening to the album though. But no, it was actually also Beyond Meat. Funnily enough, and it was. I also liked Internet, and I appreciated them because of the samples. Like Beyond Meat has like a Wario sample.
It does,
which I think is so funny. But yeah, in general, and in terms of least like it's hard to like distinguish, right? Because most of them were just like you said, using noises that my like peasant brain just isn't accustomed to. So, but I think it was a cool experience for sure.
Eric, did you have any that stood out to you, or was it just all one?
Still Beyond Me was like the one that would kind of stood out more, but like not by that much for me personally. But yeah, again, it kind of all coalesced into like one mass that you kind of just listen to in like a chunk,
Yeah, I think there's definitely moments on MK Ultra HD that stand out to me. Like there's the MK Ultra HD transition to Joey between track 2 and 3. That's like super abrupt, but it works super well.
Let me see.
Beyond Meat is like the high point of the album for me.
Yeah,
I think.
I also do like appreciate like just the pun in Beyond Meat, like the way it's spelled and like the just the sound of it versus like what it like Beyond Meat, you know. I like that part.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, hard to
it's
agree, by the way, on the
on the
transition there to
transition.
Joey.
Mm.
Yeah, and then I don't know if the sample's in internet, but it's I think it's at the end in internet
Yeah, it
where it's
might
just
be.
a guy going, "No copyright law in the universe is gonna stop me."
I
It's
did.
just so fucking funny.
I really appreciated the samples in internet because it had a lot of video game noises and
It
samples,
did,
which
yeah.
is just funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last two tracks of the album are probably the weakest part
Mm.
overall,
Yeah.
but I enjoy giving it a listen through.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that the name of that one's.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's
I genuinely appreciate that.
I
Droop's naming conventions are great.
yes, I do think that's probably the thing I appreciate the most is the artistry of it all,
Mhm.
honestly. Um
I looked at bottom rung, and one of them was just mid barf barf, intelligent
Yep.
low bass part 4.
Yep.
Good name. Very
Yeah,
good name.
and then track 5 on the bottom run fatty run.
dude, when was that released?
Bottom rung was 2 years ago, 2013.
Okay, 2013,
13.
2023.
I have bad news
Oh,
for you,
2023,
Luke.
my bad.
Hey man, it's been a minute. I know we just talked about Panic at the Disco from 2011, but it's been a minute. It's been a minute, friend.
My tracks from here that stuck out to me, also stuck to me from bottom rung were Flamingos and Sakevi Beat.
Mm.
They also flow nicely from one to the other.
Now,
Yeah. Another like album experience, I would say. Like some of these, like you could just pick out songs and like listen to them, but this sounds like you're describing it like it's kind of like an album experience in a way.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is an experience. And if you haven't gone shopping at Target or at the grocery store listening to MK Ultra HD, I do recommend trying it once. You will feel different.
You will
I'll
feel
do it while
powerful.
like if I was pooping, do you think it would like how do you think that would feel?
I don't know how to respond to the question. I reject the premise.
I'll try it. I'll report back.
You can try it, but please don't report back.
How do you feel about this as like exercise music?
It might give you heart palpitations.
And that seems
Uh,
that's what I'm looking for now.
You know, it's funny. I actually emailed Droop.
Oh, that makes sense. You're one of his biggest fans.
Yeah, I emailed him about sampling. And he samples a lot of like 90s rap artists.
Yeah.
A lot of he said Das EFX and Redman are pretty big on MK Ultra HD.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was like flipping through, typing up lyrics, trying to find stuff. Yeah, it's very interesting album.
That's
And kind
so
of set
funny.
the tone for this weird music arc of my life that I'm going through.
No, I think that's
Yeah.
really cool. I think, and again, I kind of said at the beginning, and I'll read it. I feel like the like, you know, the kid in the backpack, like, you know, I'm like being carried by my like musical giant friends who like understand a lot more and like have way more like varied interests and ranges of like music they're into. But I do think it's like cool, and I'm like happy for you for like experiencing that because it's definitely like I feel like I very much had my genres from like high school and they haven't like shifted like a huge amount. Like maybe a few more have been added, but like I haven't had those like same like shifts or experiences.
Yeah, I know. I mean, look, obviously I've known you for quite some time now. Yours has shifted, but it doesn't surprise me to where it shifted.
Yeah.
It doesn't shock me in the slightest.
The ideological jump from Death Grips to Droop is smaller than you'd expect.
It really is like a logical progression for me.
I always think it's funny when I talk to people about Luke and they're like, "Yeah, Luke's so like nice and like put together." I'm like, "Oh, you don't know him that well, do you? That boy's a freak."
So I have to wonder, were there any other albums you were considering for this episode?
In contention would probably be something by Remy Wolf.
I was wondering if you're gonna choose a Remy Wolf.
Yeah, I backed off of Remy Wolf because I'm like, Eric's probably heard everything she's put out, and you know, or he could pick one. I think I'd have picked Juno by Remy Wolf as a good album to listen to. I just think it's good. It's just good music.
It's just good music. I like, yeah,
Good
it's
music.
put simply, and it's like relatively approachable for sure, right? I mean, there's a reason
Oh,
why
yeah.
Remy Wolf's as popular as she is right now, you know. But I know for me, there was one album where I was so close to choosing it. you, you want to know what the album was?
What was it?
It was C418's album.
Dude, that would blow Teva's mind.
I was genuinely
Dude.
so tempted to do it. Like, imagine.
That's
right?
so fun. I feel like this already blew my mind. I can't imagine what more you guys got for me.
It's like Volume Alpha is one of those albums where I actually think musically it is very good, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
outside of just the fact that obviously we have a lot of memories attached to it. But I think it would have been so funny to see what you're like Gen first. Have you actually ever listened to the entire Minecraft soundtrack, Teva?
No, I think I've probably heard tracks in the background in like college when people were studying, and like
Yeah.
they would put on like Minecraft as like background study music. But
Which
that's
it is
about
good
it.
for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for me, like Sweden is one of my favorites, right? Like it's a fantastic track. And it's one where obviously for me it evokes a lot of like nostalgia. Obviously, it goes without saying, right? A lot of childhood tied to that. But yeah, it does make me wonder, like, you know, does that track the same for you? Like, do you get that same sense of nostalgia, or
yeah,
not nostalgia, but like the same melancholy vibe?
Yeah.
So I'd be so curious to see that. But then obviously, you know, we've listened to those enough, and you know, it's more of like a side thing. But yeah, was there anything else you were considering, Teva?
I think I had a similar thought to like Luke, where it's like, oh, I could pick something, but like there's a chance y'all have heard it, or it's like something we all know like and talk about pretty well. So I was debating picking the most recent Vampire Weekend album, which is Only God Was Above Us. And part of the reason I was debating like picking it is it's relatively short. It's one of their shorter albums. It came out recently, and it is, I think, more like, I think Vampire Weekend, I like their music. I thought it was more unique compared to a lot of their other stuff. I think they played a lot more around with what's the word? Like not as harmonious like sounds. Kind of like
discordant stuff.
Discordant, thank you. That's the exact word. Like discordant notes. And it's actually like really grown on me as an album, and it probably has, and again, recency bias, but it probably has one of my favorite Vampire Weekend tracks of all times, which is Ice Cream Piano.
I do like Ice Cream Piano.
I do like Ice Cream Piano. So I was debating that, but I'm like, it's like you picking Young the Giant. It's like we all talk about Vampire Weekend. We all like know about Vampire Weekend. So
I did not realize there's a new album. I actually haven't listened to this album at all.
Oh yeah, you should. Damn, I should have picked it.
I guess other shortlist albums for me would have been Oncle Jazz by Men I Trust, or Multi Love by Unknown Mortal Orchestra.
Oh, I love Multi Love.
I have not listened to those names.
Oh yeah, or Mordecai by Krungbin.
I was okay. Krungbin was one I thought you were going to choose.
Yeah, Krungbin's pretty high on my list.
Yeah.
I feel like I almost had an easier time because I was like, ain't no way they're gonna pick what I'm picking. They got.
Well, I felt the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I locked mine in.
Yeah, it really does go like Luke's definitely has the most esoteric like music taste right now. And then yeah, it kind of goes down the list from there. But
yeah,
it's funny. And this isn't an album, but it's just a song because I thought it was really funny, and I actually like the song because it's a good song. But Applesauce by Sam STS. It's funny because if you listen to the like first like 5-6 seconds of that,
what the heck?
And it's just like King Cruel mentioned. But I actually like the song a lot. It actually has some really, really, really great jazzy like guitar licks built into it. And I love that. But yeah, it's a funny little song. I like it.
I think I knew that my picks were going to be very different when I looked at the listener stats on Spotify.
Yeah,
my highest listener stat is bobbing with 40K.
That's funny. Let me see what mine is. Millie has 600K monthly listeners, and Panic even today has like 19 million. So that's pretty basic.
Damn, I didn't realize 400,000 for Jung actually. I'm actually
that's
surprised.
A lot. Yeah,
because it was not that high when I first found them at all.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well,
I didn't even think about these stats.
If Droop has 1 million fans, I am one of them. If Droop has 400 fans, I'm one of them. If Droop only has one fan, that fan is me.
Yeah.
If he has
And if
no pants.
I am no longer on this earth.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. I I do think like I forget who suggested this idea, whether it was you or Eric. It was definitely not me. But if it was you, Luke, I feel like you just suggested this to get me to listen to Droop, and
You got me.
that's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing.
The
You
long
know
con.
it.
Yeah, I really
shall we
enjoyed
wrap
this.
up with highs and lows, favorite track,
Yeah,
least
yeah.
favorite track?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the stuff that I didn't recommend because I feel like the stuff I recommended will always be like the stuff I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
more.
Of course, yeah.
But again, rock music by Gabby Start by Luca. The only track I've like actually added to my repertoire from this experience. Everything else was like a fever dream, which is like, damn, Luke and Eric be wilding out there. But I did like this song. And I think the Gabby Start album was as a whole my favorite. And the least favorite, it's gotta be Droop. So you really captured the highs and lows of my experiences, Luke.
Not a consistency guy this
not
time
a
around.
consistency guy.
No.
I will say honorable mention to the Jaehoon album. I think it was my favorite experience of the albums, just not as much what I'd add to my like playlists. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I would say honestly, majority of the Bobby stuff actually, or the Bobby stuff. Like it just, I would say like maybe if I had to pick out like a specific one, I really like A Night Alone. But also Stereolog, I don't know, like they're all really good. Like I genuinely really like Bobbing. Like I'm probably adding majority of these to like lists that I can add to. Like if I can play it at work, I'll do it.
My favorite
Yeah.
bobbing track from this album has changed very frequently. So,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like genuinely, all of them have a lot of merit. It's actually very difficult for me to pick out like a single one. That's why if it's like pick out one you like the least, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
I think probably Always the End would end up on my metric was like, would this end up on a playlist?
Right.
Always the End would probably end up on a playlist. Even though I'm not a big fan of the execution of the concept of the Jung album. I do think musically it is very, very nice, very soothing.
Yeah.
Maybe Iron Lotus would end up on a playlist.
I feel like it's very out there. Like it's like a
but
good
it's out
track
there, yeah.
in isolation. It's just hard to like I feel like I get a sense of what you listen to, Luke, and it doesn't like it doesn't like fit. It's like a cool track on its own, but it's not like part of a greater cohesive whole, if that makes sense. It's more out there.
Yeah.
It's sung in English, but it clearly like it sounds like a Japanese like track. You know what I mean? Like
It sounds like an English cover of a Japanese song.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think lyrically, a lot of Millie stuff sounds like it's not written in English.
Right,
What
but
the
it's
lyrics
spoken
are?
in English. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because like Panic is just I'm too familiar with Panic. It's hard for me to
Right.
rate. And I don't think I'd put King Cruel on a playlist. Sorry.
It'll
It's
come
his
in time.
merits,
Dude,
but
it'll come in
I
time.
think I'm not ready yet.
I can't wait to like revisit this in like a year and Luke being like, dude, I actually love King Cruel. It like
Did you
drew on
hear
me
the
so
new
much.
King Cruel?
Yeah.
I could actually see that happening.
I actually
It's the
could
funny
too,
thing.
unironically.
Like it's one of his newer songs. It's All Soup now. I actually quite like as well too.
This
But there's a
man
reason why I
loves
chose this
food.
album.
Not getting ribs, it's all soup.
Yeah, dude, ribs, soup. It's good. It's funny too because on that album, it's, one of them is just Time for Slurp.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, it's such a good name.
That is pretty funny.
That's really funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But beyond that, yeah, I say like nothing that I was directly like I don't like is other than I would say like Gabby Start. Gabby Start stuff. I couldn't get into. I just couldn't get into that one.
And it's so funny how Eric and I like flip flop on you. You really captured the highs and lows of both of us, Luke.
Yeah, bobbing is you all meeting in the middle.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It is funny. But
Enjoy it.
yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad we did this. Highly recommend. Like, this is kind of a bit of a tangent, but I think a major theme for me has been like cultivating and maintaining my friendships and making sure I have activities and things to do that I find meaningful with the people around me. And I think this is like a really fun activity. A lot of people, you don't have to like record it like we do, but like you could be like, hey, let's like exchange like a couple albums and like talk about it, just like putting in that extra effort and finding those fun activities to do with your friends.
Yeah, I think this is probably, every time we've had a homework assignment, it's been fun. But I
Yeah.
think this has been I think this has been the most fun one we've
I-
done so far.
Totally agree.
It's
Good
so
discussion.
like
funny.
music.
It's so
Yeah,
funny
it's
in
fun.
our like group chat, just Luke and Eric being like, "Oh my god, guys, I'm so excited to record today. Oh my god, guys, I have notes." Like it was funny how into it I could tell both of you got, and I was like, "Oh, this is so funny,"
hmm
which is great.
It's nice.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was
I always
awesome.
like exploring music. Sometimes it just takes work to explore music. So it's nice to have someone just be like, listen to this. You're like, okay.
That's true.
I definitely enjoy that. But yes, thank you for the idea. I'm pretty sure it was Luke who came with the idea because it was not me.
Okay, yeah, it was
That
probably
I could remember.
He
I
literally
remember
just
a
wanted us to
shot.
listen to Drew. He was like, "How can I get my friends to listen to Drew? Let's make it content."
I
Yes.
know.
Mhm.
All right.
You know what's funny is I've actually, sorry, coming back around to Droop. I've shown many people Droop.
Yeah.
One person
Don't
told
show
me,
your droop to people, please.
one person said, sometimes it feels if a beat is wrong, I get anxiety and I can feel it growing. It makes the hair on my skin rise and I immediately have to skip a song.
Oh my.
I do kind of get that, especially when you're used to more conventional kind of music progression, right? And chord progressions. And you listen to something like Jim, you're like, that did not end the way I thought it was going to.
Yeah, I was telling some of my other friends about this this episode upcoming.
Yeah.
And we were at dinner and I was like, yeah, I emailed Droop, and they both in unison shouted, "You emailed Droop?"
Dude, you're one of his biggest fans. You it's like 0.005% top listener. You're like a mega fan.
I was
Is that how you
thinking of,
preface your email?
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I prefaced with "Hope you're doing well."
Dude, actually
You're
that's
so boring, dude.
wait, that's
People
my
like, hi, I'm your biggest fan, like actually, and you just
I don't
send like
want
a
to
screenshot
weird
of
out
that.
this poor guy. I don't think he's producing music anymore.
literally every
Maybe you'll encourage
business-
him to get back into it.
Maybe you will, but every business email I write starts with "Hope you're doing well," and then I'd say the next thing. So that's kind of funny.
Hope you're doing well. Love your droop.
God.
I was, I was
Oh.
thinking of, as a bit, buying you each Bandcamp copies of MK Ultra HD and sending them to your email
You're so funny.
mid episode, but I didn't have enough time to set it up.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Yeah.
Dude,
This,
pretty funny.
this is the Minecraft incident all over again. And the Ori and the Blind Forest incident. All right. Well,
well-
this experience has really affirmed that we really should be hanging out more.
Oh,
We should be
truly.
hanging out more.
Yeah.
We could make music.
What is music if not spoken words, which is what we're creating right now?
Mm.
See y'all at the next poetry slam.
I hate that.
Next time, we're sharing our favorite slam poetry pieces.
Anyways, let us know if you listen to any of the albums. Send us your notes.
And
I'd
let me
love
know
to
when you
hear-
start getting into King Cruel as well.
Yeah, listen to Droop in Target. Tell me how it goes.
Well,
Later,
until next
y'all.
time.
Yep.
Bye.